Piscataway, New Jersey, home of the Scarlet Knights. Rutgers coming off its best two-season stretch in more than a decade. Now looking to take another step forward, and they bring a ton of production back as they try to make that jump. While the schedule is formidable, the enthusiasm and the talent level are both high. We take a deep dive into the Scarlet Knights on our Rutgers football training camp special now. Welcome to New Jersey and a Rutgers program that feels like it is starting to make some gains on some of the goals that Greg Schiano set out upon his return to the Banks. Now the question heading into 2025, can they take another step forward? Dave Revsine, Jake Butt, Gerry, DiNardo, we've already had a chance to watch practice here at Rutgers today. Lots of interesting storylines. The offense took a jump last year. You got a new defensive coordinator in Robb Smith, who's very familiar with Greg Schiano. What stood out to you as you watched Rutgers go through its paces?
It was really just the roster size and roster construction. I mean, this is year 6 for Coach Schiano. This roster has his fingerprints all over. And the first thing that jumped out was the trenches, the offensive line, the defensive line. That's a Big Ten offensive line, and it was a joy to watch them go through individual and compete in inside run drills and one-on-ones. The defensive line, Big Ten bodies once again, and I just think about the goals of what Schiano preaches. Run the ball, stop the run, play good defense, and win with discipline. The roster is constructed to back that up. And then the other thing, he's just a football coach. It is a treat to watch him coach his roster, the level of competition out there. There was one thing that stood out to me. A guy got hurt in team drill. He jogs off the field. Well, the coaches weren't prepared. That's an unscripted moment, so they don't get the right sub in, and coach blows the whistle, and he made the point that, hey, listen, if you don't go down, that's the difference between winning and losing. That could be a key play in the fourth quarter where they don't get the right sub in, or maybe they play with 10 guys. All of a sudden, you lost a game that matters. Those little details will never get past Coach Schiano.
You know, it's interesting. You tell that story about the player who got hurt and ran off the field. That may have been the only person on the ground. I mean, that's how more athletic this team is. There was nobody on the ground. And typical of Greg's teams, the drills are incredibly scripted. They're always playing leverage. They're always coaching the fundamentals. But for everyone to be standing up, the entire team, only the best teams do that. Only the best coach teams and only the teams that have athletes can stay on their feet that long. The offensive line, I agree with you, Jake. I think the improvement is how athletic they are. They can bend. They always go fighting to get leverage. But again, the attention to detail and everybody staying on their feet was pretty impressive.
And we talk about the new defensive coordinator in Robb Smith. You have so much continuity, though. This is the third time that Smith has worked with Schiano, the fourth time overall, third time here at Rutgers. That is an area where they needed to improve based on last year, and we'll break down the defense here in a bit, but that continuity's got to help, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, if you just think about this, an offensive system it's a foreign language. So anytime you bring in a new coordinator, if they want to install a brand new system, you're starting from day one learning a foreign language. That continuity helps you get a leg up in that sense, and I think that's going to be valuable because there is a needed room for improvement. They got to get after the passer more. They got to be more stout against the run, and they got to force more turnovers. When you're not installing a brand new language, you can focus on all those key points, Coach.
Yeah, plus Coach Smith has been with Greg for so long. And, you know, when you go away and you come back with new ideas. He knows what it takes here. He knows how the program's run, but that doesn't mean that he's not bringing more ideas that come back and him and Greg will install in their defense.
There's certainly a feeling that this is the best roster since Greg Schiano has been here. It's going to need to be, frankly. I mean, the schedule is unforgiving, to say the least, guys. But would you agree with that sentiment? I mean, do you feel like, Coach, you've been here the whole time. Do you feel like this is the best roster we've seen?
Absolutely. This is his best team, and this is even tougher than the Big Ten East has been for Rutgers, the way it rolls out. I mean, Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. You know, they don't play Michigan, but those three teams are ranked ahead of
Illinois and Iowa.
And Illinois and Iowa, right. Yeah, for for sure.
It's statistically, even the quarterback, Kaliakmanis, I mean, you go back, the stats back that up as well. I look at the receivers, I'm like, both those guys, KJ Duff, Ian Strong, have all Big Ten potential. So a lot of things to be excited about.
Rev, to go back to the schedule, veteran head coaches manage schedules. It's not, they don't just play one game as it unfolds. They look at the whole thing and they figure how they have to manage the schedule. And that's the benefit having a veteran coach like Greg.
And it's a challenging one, but Greg Schiano was saying to me today, and we were talking on the practice field, hey, at some point we're going to have to beat teams like that.
Media day.
This is the issue, and this is kind of hanging over their heads. They've lost 41 straight games against ranked opponents. It's the longest streak for any power conference team in the country. Rutgers with experience in a lot of key spots, including quarterback, where Athan Kaliakmanis had a really solid season. Transferred from Minnesota in part to reunite with his old offensive coordinator, Kirk Ciarrocca. Numbers took a small step forward, most notably the TD to interception ratio. He became the first Rutgers QB in more than a decade to throw for 2,000 yards. Kaliakmanis, an offensive lineman, Gus Zilinskas with Jake.
All right, Athan, Gus, rarely do we get a center and a quarterback together. So I want to ask you guys kind of a fun question. What's unique or maybe unknown about a center-quarterback relationship?
Yeah, we're really close. We talk a lot about, stuff outside of football. We hang out with each other outside of football. We're doing stuff together. It's either fun things, making fun of each other, whatever the case may be, but we're getting to know each other. I know a lot about him, and I'm sure he could say the same.
Yeah, it's definitely, like he said, there's a lot of off-the-field stuff that goes on. And then, on the field, too, like there's a lot of little small things that, the fans might not necessarily see that, we're chopping it up and busting each other's chops during plays and, on the sideline, whatever it may be. We're just, we're really tight. So.
Athan, a lot's been made about your relationship with Kirk Ciarrocca. We listened to him talk here a couple minutes ago, and he said the meetings have changed. It's more of a discussion rather than him teaching. So I'm curious, what does that allow you to do for your game?
Yeah, it just completely opens things up for me. It builds like that intelligence. We were just talking about that before. Like my intelligence, I feel like has expanded. I know a lot more about the game situationally. I'm always asking him questions because I just want to pick his brain. He's very intelligent. He's been in the game, been doing this for over 30 years now, and whatever I can learn from him, I'm trying to pick that from him. I'm trying to learn it because my time is short here now, and I'm just trying to get everything I possibly can out of him.
How is that translated to the field at this point in fall camp?
Yeah, absolutely. It brings me a lot of confidence because it's not only what he gives me, but it's what I can give to the other guys too. What I can tell the receivers. If something's too deep or too short, I'm going to say it to him. Hey, this is too deep or too short. And same with the offensive line. And we just all communicate with each other, and I think that's been a huge thing. That communication that we have, I bring to the guys on the team too.
I love watching the offensive line. You guys had some great double teams, and give a lot of credit to Coach Flats. So what has he meant to your offensive line room and your personal development?
Yeah, Coach Flats is incredible. Ever since he got here, he started out here as a consultant, and then eventually worked his way up into the offensive line coach. And he's probably forgotten more football than I know currently. But he's completely changed the game for me. Like I have a completely different understanding of the nickels and how the safeties fit in, and what a linebacker alignment means when he's a little bit pushed over and all that. So he's incredible, and he's not only teaching just the centers this, he's teaching everyone in the room this, and it's a great opportunity to have him as a coach.
Getting 5 guys to play as one unit.
Exactly.
It all comes together. Mm-hmm. Athan, I know you got a deep wide receiver room, but looking at Ian Strong and KJ Duff, those got 6'3", 6'6". Can you just talk about your level of excitement and what kind of guys you have outside?
Yeah, those two guys are probably the two hardest working receivers I've been around. For them to be as naturally talented as they are, and for them to work as hard as they do, is incredible. That's what makes them them. But they're also really good human beings. They're fun to play with. They're exciting players. They make a big play. They get everybody going. Those are the kind of guys those two guys are, and they're game changers. They really are. They make big plays. If I throw something and it's a little off, I know they're going to catch the ball. That's the kind of confidence I have in them. But it shows in their work. Whenever I've asked them to, throw or watch film, they were the first 2 people there. So that's just a credit to them.
Your brother joined the roster.
Yeah.
What's that like? How's that? Has it been fun? Competition? Do you guys live together?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's been incredible to have him out here. We're living together now. It's kind of weird, going from, living with each other for 18 years and then, not necessarily being together for a couple of years and now, being back in as roommates again. But, it's great to have him out there, and it's great to be able to pick his brain on different things because, we're very similar body types and very similar players, but I feel like we look at things a little bit differently. And so to be able to understand how he might see it is definitely going to help me, and I can teach him some things also.
Awesome. Well, Gus, Athan, thanks so much for joining us. Looking forward to watching you guys this fall.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
New defensive coordinator this year at Rutgers in Robb Smith, with Joe Harris-Simiak off to UMass as the head coach. But Smith in no way new to Piscataway. This is the third time he's been with Greg Schiano here. Was his special teams coordinator in Schiano's first stint as the head coach. Rejoined him as his DC for 2 years before leaving for Duke. Now Smith back on the banks and reunited with an old friend. Robb Smith joining us now. And, Coach, we outlined your familiarity with Greg Schiano. So how does that ease the transition here, the fact that you've worked with him, that you know his system?
Yeah, number one, it's great to be back. It's great to be with Coach again. I don't think there's a person that I'm more aligned with in the football world, and having been with him before, not only here but in Tampa Bay, it makes it easy. You know what to expect. You know what he's going to ask from you, and you got to bring your hard hat every day and go to work. But that's kind of the way we do it here.
What is it about you and Greg that makes this such a good fit and such a good partnership? You talked about being aligned with him in what ways?
Yeah, so when I was a young assistant coach, I think he kind of took a shot on me. I was a FCS coach, and he brought me in as a special teams coordinator and really allowed me and helped me to grow as a football coach. And certainly the things that I've been able to do and learn, I wouldn't have been able to do without him. So it's great to be back and be around him, and excited for the challenges of this season.
How much time does Greg spend in the defensive game plan and on game day?
So he's obviously very involved. He's the head football coach. He's got his he's got his finger on a lot of things in this program, and I mean that in a positive way. But I think we're very aligned. We talk a lot about what our vision of the defense is, and then how do we go to accomplish that. But he's a big piece of that, and I think we have a great group of staff as well, and we're all in there working together, and excited to finally get out here and scrimmage sometime soon and see it all come together.
What's the strength of the defense so far?
I think just number one, I think our guys have. I know it's not a specific thing, but I really like the way our guys are working. I think we've come out and we've gone to work. We've got some new things and some things that are different than what we've done here in the past, and they've really embraced it and worked hard at picking it up. And I think we're communicating at a high level that we certainly didn't do in the spring, and that's going to be good things for us leading into the season.
We got a lot of new faces in the secondary. Bring people up to speed on how you feel like that group's coming together.
Yeah, we got Cam Miller, a transfer for us. Jed Elad is a transfer as well. But we got Kaj Sanders returning. We've got our corner room has kind of always had some depth with Bo Masco. So we just got to. I love the guys that we have back there. We just got to find the right seats on the bus for them as we head into the season.
What's left undone before the season starts? Maybe personnel, input of more scheme. Where are you with that?
Yeah, I think we're in a really good spot from a scheme standpoint here after 2 weeks. We're going to kind of be who we are here at Rutgers. But, now really excited to get an opportunity to scrimmage, go out and play football, get used to the monotony of football, a couple-hour football game, and see how we do. But don't think there's a lot more scheme-wise, but we just got to get out and play football. Excited for the scrimmage.
It's interesting to think about. You obviously follow this program, know this program, but you weren't working for this program here over the last couple of years. So are there players where you came back that maybe you were somewhat familiar with, and then you look at them and they pop or they jump off the page?
Without question. When I got here, in February and was watching our guys in the winter workouts, there was a massive jump. In the level of the player that was here from when I was here last time. I kind of use the analogy, we belong, at the table. We're not out of place, and we just got to keep working hard, and other people will figure that part out. We just got to stay on our chop and work hard and continue to improve every day. If we have just daily improvement, I think when we pop up at the end of this thing, we'll like where we are.
Who are some of the guys that we haven't seen in the past that we're going to see when you open up?
Yeah, that's, we're still trying to figure that out. I think the two transfers for sure, Jed and Cam have been spectacular. But, guys like, Chop, DJ, our linebacker, he's, I really feel great about some of the things he's done in camp, and he's a rising star in this league.
That's an unbelievable story as well.
Without a doubt.
Story of perseverance. I want to leave you with this. When this thing is humming, when it's where you want it to be, what are the adjectives you want people to use to describe Rutgers defense?
When you turn on the film, we're going to look different. The way that we run to the football, our physicality, the way that we communicate, the way that we love to play football, it's going to look different on film. And I think that's what people will say about us.
Robb Smith, great to see you again.
Great to see you.
All right, thanks, Coach. Defense has been the foundation of Greg Schiano's Rutgers program, but it dropped off a bit last year. Ended up 17th in the Big Ten in total defense, allowed a conference worst 5.2 yards per carry. Pass D dipped significantly, and as you can see, big plays were a big issue. 58 of 20 yards or longer. Only 2 teams in the Big Ten allowed more. So a few numbers there that Rutgers would certainly like to improve on significantly this year, Jake. Again, it's fair to point out they had a lot of injury issues last year on defense. We talked about it off the top. Robb Smith coming in to run this D, a guy who knows Greg Schiano very well. What stood out as you watched them go through defensive practice, and what do you think of the group that was out there today?
Yeah, so it's about coaching the players you have. So I look at the body types, the player profiles, and I start with the defensive line. Those are bigger bodies, stout bodies, which I think will play in their favor in terms of stopping the run. I like the linebackers, but I know a big point of emphasis was being able to rush the pass rusher. I didn't see as much twitch, so I think in terms of how you're going to have to get after the quarterback, that might involve blitzing linebackers or bringing in some smaller bodies, key third down packages. Now, with that in mind, that's going to put some more stress on the secondary. When you talk about the injuries, these are new guys starting, but guys that were able to get some reps last year because of the injuries. So what you're hoping to see is these next few weeks of camp continue to take big strides to get this defense back playing on track.
Right. So Greg obviously is a defensive coach, and as you mentioned, Rever, they took a step back last year. I'm going to tell you, they're going to take a step forward this year. I mean, it's going to improve. I'm not sure what they're going to do up front. That was the only thing. I mean, I think there's talent up there. I'm not sure if they're going to move a lot, if they want to just be a one-gap or a two-gap team. So it'll be interesting to see it unfolds there. They have some edge rushes, though, which obviously you need. And, I was impressed with the secondary as well. I think that's a better back end than they had a year ago.
A lot of new faces in that secondary, and there are going to be a lot of new faces overall on this defense. And part of what Greg Schiano has talked about is there were guys who were pressed into playing last year, maybe before they thought they were totally ready to go. In the long run, Coach, in some crazy sort of way, that can help you.
Yeah, and complementary football can help you as well. Again, now you've got Robb Smith on defense. Kirk Ciarrocca has been with Greg a long time. Those two coordinators help Greg manage the game. And it's not just, I want to do whatever I can on offense, I want to do whatever I can on defense. Those two coaches work together so that Greg can manage a game.
And I think the areas of emphasis, you talk about the D-line construction, moving them. Schiano has mentioned he feels this is going to be a deep rotation. They're going to be able to rotate many guys. That's going to keep them fresh. Another area, if they can force more turnovers, which has been talked about all offseason, all spring, summer, and fall, if they can force more turnovers, all of it, that just takes so much pressure off your defense. It gives such an advantage to your offense. It's been emphasized. I'm looking forward to seeing it come to fruition.
And we hear about it from a lot of defenses, right? Can you force turnovers? Can you stop the run? Can you not give up big plays? Those were bugaboos last year for Rutgers. We'll see whether they can improve in all those categories this season. Rutgers in an unusual and enviable spot in what is a transient time in college football, returning a combined 71% of its offensive and defensive production. That is second in the Big Ten behind only Illinois. It's eighth in the nation. So continuity is there, and continuity with the head coach as well. Greg Schiano entering year 6 of his second stint, year 18 overall as the head coach of the Scarlet Knights. And Greg Schiano joins me now. Coach, entering year 6 of your second go-around here at Rutgers, how would you assess where things are versus where you want them to be?
Well, as a coach, you always want them to be a little bit better, but I love our team. I love our staff. There's a bunch of people that are committed to the values that we think are important, and we have good players. So we need to keep working to get better because we're in what I believe to be the best league in college football. So you better get better.
You're not getting any argument here on that, by the way. You're in the midst of your best 2-year stretch now in a dozen years since the last time that you were here, and even amidst that last year, the defense wasn't where it typically is. So how do you get back to playing the kind of defense that you've been known for historically?
Well, during the year, I never talk about injuries. I don't talk about that. But after the year, when you evaluate, you have to look at what happened and why.
Right.
Big part of that was the guys we were counting on were not able to play, or if they were playing injured. I probably should have, as the head coach, forced some younger guys in there and not had as many guys play in pain as they did. Having said all that, we need to improve in everything. We got a bunch of guys that haven't played a lot now, so we have an inexperienced group, but a group that I think is talented, and we have to make sure that we just keep it to the level. And Coach Smith understands, let's only do what we can really do well, and we'll grow as a program over time. And I think that's one of the great things Coach Ciarrocca did with our offense when he came here, is little by little, when we were able to be proficient at something, then we added, and that's going to be the secret. For us to win, we have to play complementary football, and everybody says it, but I think we may have to do it a little more than others. But that's fine. That's the way we do it.
You mentioned Coach Smith. That's of course Robb Smith, who has been your defensive coordinator here previously. He's been your special teams coordinator. He worked with you in the NFL as well. So how does that familiarity help when you bring in a new coordinator, the fact that they're not really new?
Yeah, I think it helps a lot. Like, we have a history together. He'll bring it up and he'll say, remember, we did this against so-and-so. We did that against this, what we did to Breeze. This, and I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Right. So it sort of saves time. You got to make sure that the new ideas keep coming. So we have Zach Sparber, who comes in as our co-coordinator, and he brings a bunch of new ideas and a new perspective. And that's always important to me, that we continue to grow.
Offensively, really liked watching that group out there today. There's talent all over the place. The wide receivers really stood out. Give people a sense of what you've seen from that unit.
Yeah, I think Dave Brock has done an incredible job building the unit. Like I always say to coaches, look, I'm in charge of the whole squad, but if I'm a receivers coach, I'm gonna make sure I go find me some receivers, right? And he's done a heck of a job in doing that, and our whole staff recruits together. But Dave's an excellent evaluator and a great coach. So, and I think Kirk has been able to just bring them along at the right speed. So I think we're at the point now where, we have some guys that can make plays in this league, and that's important.
Where have you seen the most growth in Athan?
I think time-wise, it was from like Game 7 on last year, all the way through the season. And what I saw was a guy who just became more and more confident in what he was seeing. Like, he's a very bright guy, and he works incredibly hard at it. And he started to trust his training in the back half of the season. You could see it. I mean, he went whoa, like that. Now we need to continue on that trajectory, and I think he will.
One of the areas we talked about early on when you came back was offensive line. And it was kind of one of those, with all due respect, kind of conversations. You'd say, hey, they're working hard, but we got to be better. We need more numbers. We need better, bigger bodies. It feels to me like you've made immense progress there. Assess that group, where you think they are and how they're going to help you.
We have made, but we still have a lot more to make. I mean, this league is great offensive lines, right, and great defensive lines. So we're getting better. There's no doubt about it. Coach Flaherty does a great job with that group. We have some really good young kids. Mm-hmm. They're just not probably going to be quite ready to go this year. Maybe the back half of the year. I love our veteran guys. They're tough guys. They've been in our program for a long time. We lose Holland Pierce. Now, Holland quietly started 52 games here.
Right.
So, like, that's a big, big loss, and we're going to have to replace him. But, Flats has been doing this a long time, and he understands how you get groups ready, not individuals. You got to get the individual player ready for sure. But, the great offensive lines, they travel like this, as 5 guys as a fist. And I can see that happening gradually.
The schedule is not forgiving, maybe would be the best way to put it. It really puts a premium on doing something that you've done a great job with since you've been back here, which is getting off to good starts and taking care of business in the non-conference. Is there even more of a premium on that this year, given how difficult that conference schedule is?
Yeah, but like we're at the point now. Look, we got to go compete, right? I understand who we're playing. We all do, right? We look at the rankings. You look at who you're playing. You say, oh, that's a pretty tough schedule. But we need to be able to go win those games. And when will that happen? Look, I'd love to tell you it'll happen right now. We're going to find out, though. But we have good players, really, good coaching. We just need to keep going. It'll happen.
What are the biggest priorities that you feel like you need to work on still as you progress towards that opener against Ohio U? Like, based on where you are in camp, what are the things that, man, we got to shore this up before we get into that game?
Really defensively making a decision, hey, this is what we're going to do. And until we get this right, that's where we're going to settle in. We've done it. We've introduced it a lot so they can learn it, but now we got to start to hone it in. And we got plenty of time to do that, but now is the time. After Saturday, we'll have a scrimmage on Saturday, and then we'll really start to lock in.
Well, you bring that up. I mean, it sounds like you're talking about conceptually and schematically what you're going to do on defense. How different is what you're doing on defense? Is that a function of Zach being here? I mean, it feels like there's been so much continuity, and obviously defense is your forte. So what should we expect some different stuff?
Yeah, I think, Robb is one of those curious guys that always is investigating, visiting pro camps, studying other people. So I love the ideas he brings. Zach brings ideas from his experiences. So I think cumulatively we're gonna have a little different look in certain ways, but then in other ways we'll be very, very similar.
Last thing I want to ask you about, and I know I saw you visiting with her, Kelly Zinn, the new athletic director. We had her news conference on the Big Ten Network. I thought she was fabulous. I got to spend a few minutes with her here today. What are the biggest priorities you feel like? What do you need administratively as you guys look to take that next step as a program?
Yeah, I think every place is the same, right? Everybody needs more money. Well, it's not a mystery. We need to fundraise. We need to make sure that we market our programs and the players, right? Like, this is the age of revenue sharing and of NIL, and we need to make sure we continue to grow. I can't thank our people enough. They've been so generous just in the last 4 years to help us get to where we are. And we just got to keep in every area. It's a challenge. We got to grow. Our fan base has got to grow. Our fundraising's got to grow. And I think Kelly and President Tater are a perfect fit for where we need to go. And just look forward to working with them.
Greg Schiano, thanks a lot, Coach. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
From the big shoes to fill department, we bring you Antoine Raymond, part of the group taking over for Rutgers' second all-time leading rusher, Kyle Monungai. Raymond gave reason to believe there might not be much of a drop-off, went over 100 yards in their bowl game, ran for 8 touchdowns last year, nearly triple the total of any other Big Ten freshman. Pleased to have offensive coordinator Kirk Ciarrocca with us now. And, Coach, let's start with the running back spot. You lost a great player in Kyle Monungai. It felt like it will be a little bit more of running back by committee based on what we saw out there. Give us a sense of what you've got in that backfield and how you feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, replacing Kyle, when you're trying to replace a great player like that, it's always a difficult task. But I think these young kids we have really done a really good job of getting a little bit better, incrementally better every single day. And I can see them starting to be more decisive and understand it. And then there's C.J. Campbell, who transferred here. He's more of a veteran, but he's still learning our system and how our run game works. And that's really one of the keys to being a great back, is really understanding the run schemes with it. And Coach Shaw's doing a great job with them.
You had Athan Kaliakmanis come in last year. You had, of course, recruited him to Minnesota. What's the next step for him? I mean, you guys have worked together now for several years. How does he take the jump from a pretty good year last year to having an even better year this year?
Just getting better every day. Right, and sticking to the process. And I'm really proud of him in a number of areas. One, just the way he's done leading this team and becoming the leader of the team. The quarterback's always the leader of the team, but I think in order to be a great leader, you have to earn it a little bit too, right? It doesn't get just handed to you. And he's done a great job here in the off season, through spring ball, through the summer, and through training camp. I don't think there's a guy in our program that doesn't think he's the leader of the team right now. But he's also done a great job continuing to work mentally, continuing to work on his fundamentals, continuing to work on his accuracy, organizing throwing sessions starting in January, leading all the way through the summer in the training camp. And he's starting to see the rewards of that out there. He's a little bit more accurate. He's a little bit more confident, a little bit more decisive. But you really started to see it the last 6 games of the season last year. I think it was UCLA or USC where I was like, okay, he's really close to making a jump here and becoming a good quarterback. And then he did that after that, and I thought he played really well the last 5 or 6 games of the year.
Having said that, how much more can he do, and how much can you change if you want to change, because he's had so much experience?
Yeah, I mean, he's in command of the offense now. He really understands the system, and really he's mastered the system.
Right.
So we're very much on the same page. The quarterback meetings are a lot of fun because it's a lot more discussions now. Why that or why this with it? Why do we want to do that? Why not this? So that's been a lot of fun for me. But I just think, with a quarterback, right, there's some critical plays in every game, and you got to make those plays if you want to be a great player. And I see just a little bit more consistency out of him every single day.
4 offensive linemen in the back. How much better, since you've been here, has that group unit improved?
Well, I think they've improved tremendously from the first year I was here. And again, when this will be my 3rd year here. Going into year 3, I really feel like the guys really start to really take to the system and understand the fundamentals and details that it's going to take to be successful, to give yourself the best chance to be successful. Coach Pat's does an unbelievable job, obviously, with those guys, but again, part of the culture here is the work ethic that our players have and how they're willing to chop every single day and making sure that they're giving themselves a chance for maximum growth every day.
Coach, that wide receiver group is awfully impressive. I mean, Ian Strong had a great day. KJ Duff, you got some transfers who are going to help you. Give people a sense of how you've seen that group develop.
Again, I got to give the credit to Coach Brock and them. What they've done from January to now is really take a really big leap. They're very consistent. They're smarter players. I think that we have a chance to be legitimately a really good group there, and I think it's not just one guy there. KJ Duff, Ian, Ben Black, DT. Right, these guys have really worked hard, and I watch them, and they're making plays. But here's the most important thing to me is that they're doing it on a consistent basis, day after day.
Well, it was fun to watch today. Kirk Ciarrocca, thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
Rutgers offense last year, the most prolific of Schiano's second go-around on the banks. 376 points, marked their 4th most ever in a single season. The other 3 all came during the heyday of Schiano's first stint here. Rutgers finished 71st in the nation in total offense after placing outside the top 100 in that category each of the previous 8 seasons. So the arrow clearly pointing up on this offense as of last year, and I know you guys feel like that trend can continue here this season. That was impressive out there today.
Yeah, and we'll start with the quarterback in Athan. What a valuable piece to have a veteran guy. He's comfortable with Kirk Ciarrocca, and I think the next step for him is improving upon that completion percentage. He had a great day out there, and I think it's valuable to have guys like Ian Strong, KJ Duff, 6'3", 6'6", big frames. But not only that, there's the difference between completing the ball, Coach, and ball placement. Athan was effectively perfect, at least in practice today, of his ball placement. I think this all comes back to the offensive line. That was the most impressive group to me today. You talk about the pad level. Hip to hip in the double team. They're not running necessarily new schemes, but it's how it's being coached and how it's being executed. You got 5 guys playing up front as one singular unit. They did some nice things today.
Every position coach has a relationship with their position, but I think quarterback relationships with an offensive coordinator like Kirk is really important. And you just look at Athan. I mean, he's a veteran plus guy, the way he carries himself. The offensive line, the difference in the offensive line from previous offensive lines here is they're athletic. They can bend. They keep great leverage. They're not coaching it any different, but it looks different, and they're just impressive with the way they get their pad level underneath the defense.
I got to say, I love the wide receivers. I mean, that was it just kind of when we walked in, that was the group that I gravitated toward first, and wow. I mean, Ian Strong, KJ Duff, they got a transfer Sheffield who looks really good. They've got some young guys from last year who I thought popped. I mean, it feels to me like if Athan makes the jump that you're talking about, he certainly has plenty of weapons to go to.
Totally. And like, size can't be enough, okay? Like, you can't teach size, that's great. But to have guys that are 6'3", 6'6", that can move and bend the way they did and to chew up space on the defensive backs. Athan was able to hit a nice big explosive post over the back of the defense today. Again, credit to the offensive line. He had time. That's huge for a quarterback's confidence. So it's all coming together, Coach.
Yeah, when you talk about an offensive line being more athletic than the previous, it's pass protection. I mean, you have to be a good athlete to pass protect. That's the hardest thing. You're going against a better athlete, usually on the defensive side. So this is all coming together, timing right up with Athan and the offensive line.
I do want to add, too, before we get to the running backs, because that's a huge story with the absence of Kaliakmanis. A.J. Ciarrocca, backup quarterback, pretty good. I mean, you and I were watching. He hit a big one over the top. He's the heir apparent, in theory at least, and he looks like he's ready to go.
Rave about the intelligence as well. And we did see the arm talent, had a really nice ball, 40 yards down the sideline, over the outside shoulder. He's benefiting from having a deep wide receiver room.
All right, so let's get into the running back situation, because Kaliakmanis was such a force here. Their second all-time leading rusher, over 1,200 yards each of the last 2 years. I mean, he was a big-time back. It doesn't feel like they're going to replace him with one guy, at least based on what we saw today. But what did you think of the group of guys they have in the backfield?
You know, it's pretty typical now. I mean, I'm not sure there's a lot of teams that only go with one running back now. I was impressed with him. Again, I would put him in the same group as the offensive line. They're very athletic. I think their production is going to be up. And I think nowadays football, I think you want to. I think the players want to. I mean, I don't think a running back wants to stay in there the whole game any longer. I think this is a new way of coaching the running backs, is to have more than one of them.
And again, I go back to the coaching staff. It's the way they're being coached. They're being coached the right way. I felt that the sum of the three guys that we saw today, that they run just like what we saw from Kaliakmanis, and they help the offensive line too. I mean, you have to have patience in the backfield to give those guys a chance to double team, climb, to know how to set the blocks. It all works in unison. You can't just push the hole now. And every back was showing great patience. They were able to break some key runs, low to the ground. They're going to be hard to tackle.
And everyone on their feet. You can't make that point strong enough that there was nobody on the ground flopping around. You know, and it tells you that the athleticism is much better than it's been.
And to me, I just look at the evolution, I look at the progress, and I think about in the early years where Greg came back here. I mean, the offense was a slog. It really was. It was hard for them to move the ball. Last year was a huge improvement, particularly in the non-conference, averaging 40 points per game. But overall, that offense was better. Can they continue it this year? I think no reason, after seeing what we saw today,
absolutely
no reason to believe they can't continue to progress.
14 minutes low. Cut. Go!
What a story Dariel Djabome became last year. Pressed into a major role due to injuries. The young man who drove down from Canada and slept in a car in order to attend Rutgers camp and earn a scholarship ended up with a team-high 105 tackles, second most among returning players in the conference. He and teammate Jordan Walker with Jake.
DJ, there's that awesome story about how you got here, sleeping in the car the night before Rutgers camp. And, I mean, you pretty much do that because you love the game of football. So I want to start there. Why do you love a game of football? What is it about the game of football?
So I'm going to have to start off and give, a little shout out to my older brother. He's the one that initiated football in our family. My parents not really into it. But, and then I've seen him, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to be better than you one day. And then I am now, and he knows it. So, but, started football playing at 11, 12. And then from there, it just has been, a passion for me. And, it was just like the beginning of my journey.
Jordan, a lot has been made about needing to get more pressure on the quarterback this fall. As you evaluate the defensive line, where do you think your unit's at this point?
We've been really hungry, so we're doing everything we can day in, day out to improve ourselves. Pass rush, before pass rush, you got to stop the run. So we're not forgetting about the run. We got to earn the right to rush, and then we're going to be hungry when the time comes.
DJ, we talked to defensive coordinator Robb Smith a few minutes ago. He said there's some new wrinkles to expect. I know the system remains the same, but can you speak to that? What are some of those new things we can expect to see this fall?
Right. So, the main goal of our defense is disrupt the ball, get the ball back to the offense. He's just making sure that he's putting us in the best position, all 11 players, to make sure that we disrupt the ball.
Another thing is needing to force more turnovers. What does that look like? How has that showed up for your defense this fall? We can start with you, DJ.
We have what we call attacking circuit. Other college football, teams probably have that. But we really put an emphasis on, disrupt the ball, whether it's, knuckling the ball, whether it's, jabbing.
Every team in America does ball disruption, but we're starting to incorporate it in every drill we do, like the D-line. Even if it's a pass play or just footwork drill, we're incorporating finishing on the quarterback, finishing on the ball, making it an important aiming point of what we're trying to do.
Coach Schiano is a defensive guy. Clearly, he's not going to compromise from the standard. I hear him coaching you guys hard out there. Can you just speak to the defensive standard here at Rutgers?
Yeah, our defensive standard, we're going to swing to the ball. So our standard is there's going to be 11 guys at that ball, and we're not trying to go down from that. We've got to be the hardest working team, the hardest playing team we can be on film.
And then you being in the center of the defense, the middle linebacker, how have you grown as a leader going into this year?
I'm not the loudest guy, but it's an honor for me to be a leader on this team, and I really take this role. It's an honor, and I'm grateful to take this role, and I'm taking it seriously. So I'm just making sure that, I'm the best version of myself, and ultimately, it allows the defense to be the best version of themselves too. So.
Last question is just a ton of new faces starting there in the secondary behind you. What's your level of trust with those guys?
They've been working hard, I'm with them every day. I know the work they be putting in and all that, so I have the ultimate trust in them. Once the opportunity is going to present itself for them, I know they're going to be ready, so I'm not worried about them.
Awesome. DJ, Jordan, really appreciate the time. Looking forward to watching you guys this fall.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
Wrapping things up from Rutgers as the Scarlet Knights continue to prep for their season opener August 28th against Ohio U here on the Big Ten Network. 2 straight MAC opponents, then Norfolk State, before facing a loaded conference slate. Big Ten openers here against Iowa. They played 3 of the Big Ten's 4 playoff teams from last year. Oregon and Penn State at home, Ohio State on the road. Also go to Minnesota, Washington, and Illinois. 8 of their 12 opponents won at least 8 games last year. So as we wrap things up from Rutgers, that is a challenging slate, and no doubt about it, they didn't get an easy draw. But big picture, what do you take away from here, including that schedule?
Yeah, let's talk about the schedule. It's not easy. That's the Big Ten, though. And the truth is, if your team is not disciplined, if you do not have an attention to detail, and if you're not well coached, you're not going to have a chance in those games. The good thing is, Coach, Schiano runs a program that is disciplined, and there is accountability, and there is attention to detail. That alone is going to give them a chance. I also think, just to go back to the roster construction, you're going to need guys to make plays on the offensive side of the ball. KJ Duff, Ian Strong, with their size and their ability to get vertical on secondaries, Athan is going to have to throw to them in contested coverages. They're going to have to make plays on 3rd down. I believe those 2 wide receivers will be able to do that against anyone in the conference.
I think it's complementary football. It's got to be. The defensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator have to be on the same page. If you watch Rutgers play, you see Greg managing the game. He's not necessarily calling the offense. He's not necessarily calling the defense. I think he's one of the best game managers in the game. There's a such thing as managing your schedule. When you look at it, what weeks do I back off? What weeks do I put my foot on the gas? Are we going too long? Are we going too short? Not every team is equal. You can say 1-0 and you can have that whole theory, but you get ready for different teams differently. And when you're a veteran head coach like Greg, you do that very well.
For them to have another winning season, let's say, what do you guys think needs to happen here?
On the defensive side of the ball, it's everything we've been told. They have to improve their run defense. They got to stop the run. I think they have the bodies up front to stop the run, and they're going to have to force more turnovers. I mean, it's everything that's been emphasized. It'll remain to be seen. We're going to see that come fall if that can come to fruition. I agree with Coach that it's about complementary football, but we were both impressed by the offensive line, running backs, and receivers.
You can't turn it over, and we haven't even mentioned the kick game. And if there's surprises that Greg Schiano unfolds, it's usually in the kick game. Complementary football, manage the game, and have your head on a swivel when there's a kicking team on the field.
He often has something up his sleeve, and there are plenty of opportunities this year for that. I think it's going to be a fascinating team. Really interested to see them. It's clear progress is being made here. I don't think there's any doubt. Is this a team where maybe the final record isn't reflective of the process? It's possible, the progress. But again, to his point, hey, start winning some of those games, and we'll see whether this is the year that they start doing it. Speaking of winning games, we're heading to Columbus, Ohio next to see the defending national champion Buckeyes. What will Ryan Day and company do for an encore 1 year after winning the school's 9th national title? Looking forward to seeing that. It is next on our camp tour. Want to thank everyone here at Rutgers, Jimmy Gill, Griffin Whitner, everyone on the SID staff. Thank you so much for all of your hospitality. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you along the road here as our Big Ten Network tour continues.